Connecting ourselves to the last lecture, here's where we are sitting in the 1930s. Collective security, using things like the League of Nations to make sure that no war like World War I ever breaks out, has largely been abandoned because countries are focusing on themselves and the issues related to their economies and the Dust Bowl, and in Russia, harvests, and in Germany, rising nationalism. Disarmament, which had been a voluntary approach that all countries seemed very eager to buy into, has failed. For the same reason that if anybody in those horrible gangster shoot-'em-up movies that we tend to watch sets up a meeting and says, no guns, what does somebody always do? They bring a gun just in case. So people are always going to keep stockpiles of weapons behind. Clearly, the peace treaties of World War I, especially Versailles, with its war guilt clause and the horrible reparations, horrible is a bad way to put it, the massive reparations imposed on Germany aren't working out. Great Britain and France really aren't willing to take any hardline type of stances to stop other countries growing in power because they remember the toll of death and destruction from World War I, and they're in many ways willing to do anything to avoid another conflict, which in some ways makes one more likely. The United States, very much focusing on the Western Hemisphere and not trying to be involved in European affairs. And all of those new countries that are developed in Europe, the 9 new ones, many of which border Germany, have new governments. They don't have strong militaries. They can't really do much to stand up to Germany. Add to that the fact that the Soviet Union is really focused on its own affairs and isn't able to ally with places like Britain and France and the United States because of ideological differences, but also just because of what's going on in the Soviet Union, all boils down to one thing. Germany's really ready to make a move. So what we're going to tease out in the next slides is what happens in Germany in the 1930s to make war so almost inevitable.